is Jessica. I'll be your therapist today. And you're here for trigger point massage? Okay. Have you ever had a trigger point massage before? No? Okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit about what's going on so that I can make sure trigger point is the appropriate treatment for you? Okay. Alright, so you're having some pain in your feet. And you tried reflexology and that didn't work. Okay, can you show me exactly where on your feet? Alright, well, trigger point is an appropriate treatment for that. And it says here that you wanted to just have your legs worked on, is that correct? Okay, that makes sense. What we like to do in trigger point treatment is work from your torso out. How much do you know about trigger points? Okay, just what you read in the brochure. Okay, so they are tender points in the muscle. They're usually painful, or they may also radiate pain to other areas of your body. So sometimes it'll feel very strange because I may be hitting one point in your leg and you'll feel it farther down in your leg or in your feet. So we may be able to locate what's causing you pain. And it may not be in your feet, which was why the reflexology may not have helped. You can usually feel trigger points as a little nodule, but not always. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit various trigger points. I'm actually going to also work on your hips and your glutes. Again, because we want to make sure we don't miss a trigger point that may radiate down into your feet. And we're going to find those trigger points. And then I will press on the trigger point for about 10 seconds. And we may also do some stretching exercises. Okay, does that sound good to you? This is a treatment where you can stay fully clothed. I see that you're wearing comfortable pants, not jeans or anything too heavy, so as long as I can maneuver your legs around, it should be fine, and actually a little bit easier to stretch you if you're fully clothed, because we don't have to worry about the draping as much, okay? Alright, so if you want, you can just get on the table. Just climb on up. And lay face down with your face in the face cradle. Okay? Does that feel comfortable? Alright, great. So I'm going to start with a few points on your glutes, or your butt. The first is going to be right underneath your sacrum. And I'm actually going to use my elbows on your glute area. I think it makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. So the main things that I'm going to need from you is I need you to tell me if anything feels painful. I can often feel a trigger point, but sometimes I can't, and sometimes you can feel them when I cannot. So if something feels tender or painful, I want you to let me know, okay? So this first point, I'm going to work on your left-hand side first, and I'm just going to use my elbow underneath the sacrum, about an inch away from the sacrum. Do you feel any tenderness? Okay. And then a little bit farther down, about an inch and a half down, and then a little bit more towards your hip. Okay, do any of those feel tender? those are common trigger points in your gluteus maximus. So let me try that on the other side as well. So again with my elbows right under the sacrum and then down and a little bit out. Okay, nothing there. I'm actually not surprised. Those don't usually cause pain in the feet, but we just want to make sure we rule out anything that may be higher up. We don't want to miss anything. So now I'm going to actually have you roll on your side a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to palpate some points that are right around your hip bone. So the first is a little closer to the front of your body. It's right in front of the hip joint. And that's your tensor fasciolate. It flexes, turns, and rotates your hip joint. You can also stabilize the knee. Okay, any pain there? No? Okay, so then let's also try 3 points pretty much right underneath the crest of your hip bone. So there's 1 point near your sacrum. I'm going to hit with my elbow. And then move about an inch out towards your hip and up a little bit, following right along your hip bone. You see how it kind of curves. Okay, and then I'm going to hit another point about another inch towards the front of your body and down a little bit, following that curve of your hip. Any pain on any of those? Okay. Yeah, I don't feel any tight areas. Let's have you roll over. Okay. And I'm going to hit those same points. Alright, right in the front. Right in front of your hip joint. Okay. And now those 3 points right along your hip bone and near the sacrum, out about an inch, and then closer to the front of your body. Okay, so nothing there. Alright, okay. Again, I'm not surprised. Those don't usually radiate down into the foot. Okay, now I'm going to have you stay laying on this side. I'm going to hit a few more points. Really pay attention to these points because these may be causing you some issues. So, right in front of your hip joint, but a little bit higher up, there's 2 points on your gluteus minimus, right underneath your hip bone, moving down towards the hip joint, about an inch apart. Any pain on any of those? Okay, now I'm going to move a little bit out towards your gluteus. Okay. Is that a little tender? Okay. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you just press in for about 10 seconds. It should feel uncomfortable, but it should not feel painful. Okay? So you don't need a ton of pressure to be able to release a trigger point. Okay? So let me just press in there a little bit. Okay. let me continue with any trigger points in your gluteus minimus. So there's a point right above that, and kind of 3 points towards the front of your body, each about half an inch apart. Okay, a little bit tender. Okay, so I'm gonna push into those a little bit. Okay, and now I'm gonna have you roll on your back. Okay, what I'm gonna have you do is take that left leg, bend your knee. I'm gonna have you put it over on the right hand side of your right knee. So it's crossing over your body. Now I want you to take your right hand and place it on your left knee. And I want you to pull that knee across your body, keeping your shoulder blades on the table. And when you start to find a point that's a bit of tension but not painful, I want you to stop there. Okay, so now we're stretching out that gluteus muscle. And now I'm going to take my elbow and very gently, because now the muscle's being stretched, I'm going to hit those tender points again. Again, just gently. When the muscle's being stretched, I can't tolerate quite as much pressure. I'm going to hit each of those points. Okay, how's that feel? And honestly, trigger points are not something where they pop like if you've ever had a Swedish massage or deep tissue massage. Sometimes we can find knots in your back and we can release them, and you can feel sort of a popping and almost immediate relief. Trigger points are more insidious. They like to linger. They don't like to go away with one treatment. So if we do find something that seems to help, we may want additional treatments, or I can also teach you some at-home treatments. So everything I'm showing you with the stretching, you can do at home. And especially on your legs, you can do a lot of these trigger points on your own. So it's sometimes pretty easy for you to find your own trigger points because they hurt. So if you get yourself in this stretching position and then you reach around with your left hand and find these points that I'm hitting, you will know you're at the right one because it will feel tender. Or you may even feel a little nodule. Okay, so let me have you release that. Then I'm going to have you roll on your other side so I can work on the other hip and see if you have trigger points in that gluteus as well. Okay. Alright, so 2 points underneath the hip bone, right above the hip joint, a little bit in front of your body. A little tender? Okay, so I'm going to dig in a little bit. On a scale of 1 to 10, how's the pressure? Okay, don't let me go above an 8. I don't want you to be in pain, okay? Alright, so now let me hit these other points. 3 in a line, right above the hip joint. And then 2 a little bit lower down. Okay. And I'm going to hold in on some of those. Yeah, feel tender? Okay. So just take a deep breath with me. And release. That should help you to tolerate the discomfort. But again, no pain. I don't want you to grit your teeth and bear it, because you'll tense up your muscles if you're in pain. Okay? Alright. inside of your left knee. Then take your left hand and pull it across your body, stretching out that gluteus muscle. And I'll show you some other stretches you can do as well at home. I'm going to take my elbow and very gently, again, my elbow is not going to be as pointed as I can make it. I don't want just direct bony pressure on these trigger points. It'll cause too much pain. But I'm also going to be gentle with how much pressure I use. Okay. Hold in on those points. Alright, how are you feeling? Well, we'll see. Those are points that can radiate down into your ankle. So, that may be part of it. Hopefully we found some of the issue. But it'll be good for you to know, again, then you know that this gluteus may be part of your problem, and you'll know to work on it in the future. Yeah, trigger points at this muscle can cause pain sitting to standing, pain on walking, pain even at rest, and can wake you up with night pain. Yeah, it can cause pain side lying too. It really, this muscle controls a lot of your body. It does a lot of things, so it can really cause problems. And you want to look at your posture and your gait too, how you walk. You don't want to let your legs hang off the bed when you sleep. That's too much pressure on this muscle. Okay, so now I'm going to have you roll back onto your stomach. I'm going to hit a few more points on your glutes. So now one in your piriformis. That's right under your sacrum, out towards your hip about an inch. And then another 2 inches out, and another point. Any tenderness in either of those? Okay. And now on the other side. Alright. And that feels okay. Okay, good. Alright, so now I'm going to work some points in the back of your thighs. Okay. So, pretty much all of the back of your thighs are covered with possible trigger points. So I'm going to use my fingers, my knuckles sometimes my thumbs, but I don't want to wear my thumbs out, so I'm just going to hit these points about 3 inches down from your glutes is where the hamstring trigger points start. And I'm just going to hit these points and you tell me if you feel any kind of pain. Okay? Anything at all? Alright. And there's about 9 of them in your hamstrings. Okay. That feels okay? Alright, let me try on the other side. They're just sort of all over the back of your leg, to above your knee. Alright. So nothing there either? Okay. Well, that's good. Alright. So let's try a few more points in your thighs before we have you move to your calves. So let me have you roll over. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of moving around in this type of massage. That's why I like to make sure people are coming in for some sort of pain-related issue and they're not coming in strictly for relaxation because it's not always the most relaxing massage. Okay, so I'm going to hit some trigger points in your adductors. So about an inch or two down from your hip. There's a few points inside of your thigh, and then a few in the front, higher up. Okay, a little bit of tenderness there. Okay, so I'm just going to push in a little bit. Alright. Okay, now let me try on the other side. Okay. Let me just press in a little bit. That's a little tender. Okay. The pressure's okay. Alright. Okay. So now we're going to move on. There's a point, I hope since you're fully clothed you won't mind, but before I hit the point I'm going to show you, it's a little bit higher up on the front of your body, and it's right about where your hip joint is on the front. Are you comfortable with me hitting that point? Okay, I'm gonna use my elbow again because I think it's a little bit more comfortable, but I'm gonna be very, very gentle on the front of your body because there's a lot of bones right there. So I'm just gonna, any kind of pain there? No. Okay, that's your pectineus. Alright, let me try the other side. No. Okay. Alright, good. And then I'm gonna work on your sartorius muscle. That crosses from your hip all the way down to the inside of your knee. So basically, if you were tying a string from the outside of your hip to the inside of your knee, I'm going to follow that along. There's 3 points on there. That could be tender. Okay, nothing on that side. Right. How about on the other side? No. Okay, great. Alright. And let's do a few more on your quadriceps. So pretty much from your hip all the way down to your knee, on either side of your thigh, there are many, many points in your quadriceps. So let me hit some of those. Yeah, there's about 14 points. So most of them don't radiate down to the feet, but I'm just gonna check. I don't want to miss anything. Okay, those are all pretty much feeling okay. All right. Okay, let me switch to the other side. Okay. You're feeling relaxed? All right. Good. I know I have you moving around a lot, but it does help if you can relax. It'll allow the muscles to soften. Okay, so nothing on that side either? Okay, good. Well, let's move on to your calf. So we have you facing up, so I'm going to start with your tibialis anterior. So that's just the 1 point. It's about 2 inches underneath your knee. Okay, yeah, you can feel that one, huh? Alright, okay, that doesn't surprise me. Because that can radiate all the way down to your big toe. So I am going to press on that. I know it's really tender. I'm not going to press hard. How are you feeling? Is that okay? Alright, okay. Just relax. Alright. And let me try on your to your stomach. I'm going to have you, can you reach your left foot with your left hand if you bend your knee? Okay, here I'm going to kind of push your leg back, but I'm not going to stretch it too much. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to use some very gentle pressure right on that trigger point while you're stretching the muscle. Yeah, it'll stretch your tibialis anterior, and it'll also stretch your quadriceps. Yeah, so you can feel it in the front of your thigh too, but that's not what we're aiming for in this one. We're aiming for the front of your calf. But it does double duty. So now this is one where you may have a hard time being able to reach the trigger point while you're stretching. So another stretch that you can do for this is to just kneel with your legs underneath you, and you can even kind of take a little, if you have a golf ball, or a tennis ball is a little bit harder just because it's so big, but a golf ball is just about perfect, or even a super ball, and place it. Again, you'll be able to find the point. It's on the inside. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much right on the bone, but your muscle will move off to the side a little bit. But you'll be able to feel it very clearly. But a golf ball works just about perfect, especially if you're kneeling on a rug. And you kind of want to kneel on a rug. You want to protect your knees. If it's really uncomfortable, you can also fold some towels and put them between your thigh and your calf so your knee doesn't flex all the way. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the other leg. Okay, just using a little bit of pressure. Yeah, this can cause ankle pain and tenderness, pain in the big toe, shin splints. Yeah, you get shin splints that wake you up at night. Yeah, that's actually really, really common. So remember this, this is something, again, these are stretches that you can do when you are watching TV at night. Get up off the couch, or even, gosh, you can do most of these sitting right on the couch. So do these stretches, find the trigger points, press in again, count about 10 seconds and then stop, and then release. This is not, you do not have to press these forever, and you actually don't want to. It can cause you to kind of drag your foot, and it can cause ankle weakness too. Yeah, it's a really painful trigger point to have. Okay. So now let me have you roll back. So you're laying face up. Alright, and I'm gonna hit some of your extensor muscles, the trigger points in your extensors, so on the outside of your calf, right next to the bone. This is about 3 inches under your knee. It's the extensor digitorum longus. And then another 3 inches down. Okay, feel that one. Okay, that's your extensor hallucis longus. Alright. And that's actually going to be the same stretch that I taught you before. Okay, so we're just going to hold that there. Okay. And since we already had you stretch it, we probably don't need to have you stretch it again. Okay, and let's try the other side. How does that feel? Alright, so not this higher point, that feels okay. Alright, put this one lower down. Okay. Well, this actually all makes sense because a lot of the pain you mentioned was in your ankle and your big toe. So that's, again, a lot of these trigger points that we're finding all refer down to your big toe. reach down from your knee. You're going to hit these are all the fibularis muscles. And now farther down, almost to your ankle. Nothing there? Okay. And then there's 2 points to the front. Okay, so you feel that a little bit. Okay. So let me dig in there a little bit. Okay. Yeah, these can have to do with ankle weakness. Have you had any injuries to your ankles? So a few strains. So from stepping on the outside or the inside of your foot? Okay. That actually kind of fits with this trigger point. Okay, let me work on the other leg. Alright. So, about 1 inch underneath the knee. Feel anything there? Not much. Okay. And now farther down, closer to the ankle. On the side of your leg. Okay, and then the 2 points. Closer to the front of your leg. Alright, and you feel it there a little bit. Okay. Let me just dig in a little bit on that foot. Okay. Does pressure feel okay? Alright. And when I have you flip over, I'm going to show you another good stretch for those muscles as well. Okay? I'll work a little bit more on that. Alright, so next, I'm going to work on your gastrocnemius. So, those trigger points tend to be right up near the back of the knee. So I'm not going to press very hard because the back of our knees can be very tender. So there's 1 point on the inside, the back of our knee. Nothing there? Okay. What about a little bit farther down here? Okay, a little bit of tension. Yeah, I can feel a little nodule there too. So let me press in a little bit. So just take a deep breath. Yeah, that can also cause some cramping in the middle of the night and sometimes some foot pain on your instep. Okay, so let me try the other points. So on the outside is a point. Any tenderness there? No? Okay. And a little bit farther in. Okay. Nothing there either. Alright, good. Okay. So let me try the other leg. So just gently on the back of your knee. Nothing there. Have you experienced any kind of knee pain? No, not really. Okay. So it's really just in your feet. Alright, that seems consistent with the trigger points that we're finding. So we try this other point. Okay, and that one is a little bit tender. Okay, on the inside of your knee, a little farther down. Alright, let me just press on that a little bit. Give you a little bit of pressure. Does that feel okay? Okay, good. that a little bit more when I have you stretch a little bit as well. Okay. So now let me try the other points out farther towards the outside of your leg, underneath your knee. There's 2 points on either side. This is the muscle in the back of your calf that sort of splits in half. So the trigger points are up near the tendons that attach to the knee on either side. So you have a medial head, which is on the inside of your body, and a lateral head that's on the outside of your body. Okay, so no tenderness on those. Alright, so there's one more point right in the center of the back of your knee, and that's your plantaris. So I'm just going to gently press on that. Do you have any kind of pain? Not on that side? Okay, let me try on the other side. Alright. No tenderness on that side either. Okay. There's a couple points on your soleus. So, one right underneath your knee, just about in the center, but a little bit towards the outside, towards the lateral side. Any tenderness there? No. Okay. And another point lower down. Oh, no tenderness there. Okay, that's always an interesting point to hit because it actually radiates up into your sacrum area. So people who do have a trigger point there are often surprised that it gives them pain up in their low back. Okay, and now one more point. Is that a little tender? Okay, so let me dig in just a little bit. Do you feel any kind of pain in your feet when I hit this point? A little bit in your heel? Yeah, sometimes it can feel like pain, or sometimes it's just sort of like a tingling. Okay. Alright, let me try on the other side as well. So right under your knee. And then about halfway down your calf, on the outside, lateral side of the soleus. And a little farther down the inside. Okay, so that one is tender on this side too, so let me dig in a little bit. Just take a deep breath with me. Okay. Alright. And interestingly, all of these points have the same stretch that you would do. So I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, there's another point just below your knee, the back of your knee, about in the middle. You feel anything on that side? No, it's not tender. Okay, how about on the other side? Okay, not tender at all. Great. Okay. Now the flexor muscles on the back of your leg. So moving in right underneath your knee, about an inch from the outside of your leg. Anything there? No? Okay. And how about this point farther down? Right at the top of your Achilles tendon. A little bit? Okay. Yep, that can cause foot pain as well, so and big toe pain. Let me just press in a little bit. other side as well. First, let's try this point right under your knee. Nothing there, okay. And then farther down, right at the top of your Achilles tendon. Yeah, okay. It's tender on this side too, so just let me press in a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And there's another point right in the center underneath your knee. Any tenderness on the left hand side? No. Any tenderness on the right hand side? No. Okay. So I'm going to have you flip over, and I'm going to just show you a stretch that will stretch out actually all 3 of the muscles that you found had some tender points. Okay? So what you want to do is bend your knee, your left knee, keep your right foot straight, and you're just going to grab onto your foot and pull it back towards yourself. And you're probably not going to be able to stretch your foot all the way out, but stretch out your leg as much as you can. But it's more about pulling your foot back than about stretching your leg all the way out. Another way that you can do this is wrap a towel around your foot and just pull it back towards your head while your leg is straight. So let me have you do that on the left hand side, and while you do that I'm going to reach to the front of your ankle and press the 2 fibularis tertius points that seem to cause you some pain. So just take a deep breath with me. Okay. Now I'm going to press the point on the inside of your knee. That's why I have you do this with your knee bent instead of with the towel with your leg straight so that I can reach underneath your leg. I'm going to press the point on the side underneath your knee, the gastrocnemius trigger point that seemed to be causing you pain. Deep breath, not too much pressure. Again, because the foot is stretched, the muscle stretched, I don't want to use too much pressure. Okay, and then the point on your soleus, right above the Achilles tendon. It's also your flexor lucis longus trigger point. It's right at the top in the center. Okay. Alright, so stretch your leg back out and switch to your other leg. And again, you're going to pull your foot back towards your head. Stretch your leg out enough so that you can feel some gentle tension but no pain. Alright, I'm going to press the points with 2 of my fingers on the front of your ankle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, gastrocnemius, the inside of your knee. Does that feel okay? Alright, good. Keep breathing. Don't let me cause you any pain. Alright, then that final point on the top of your Achilles tendon. Keep breathing. Now for this point, you can also put the balls of your feet on a stair and let your heels drop. That will stretch out your Achilles and your flexor muscles in the back of your legs. Okay. Alright, now you can stretch your leg back out. And let me just hit some points on your feet. But it actually wouldn't surprise me if we don't find any trigger points in your feet now that we've found so many in your legs. And since the reflexology didn't help much. So there's 2 points right on the top of your foot near your ankle. So I'm going to press in. Any tension in either of those? Any pain at all? Okay. On this side? No. Okay. And there's 3 points, the inside of your arch, starting from where your heel becomes your arch, the inside. Just, is there any pain on those? No. Okay. How about on the other side? That's your abductor hallucis. And then the flexor digitorum brevis. There's 2 points just in the middle of your foot, right underneath your second toe and your fourth toe. Nothing on either side? Okay. And then 2 points on the outside of your foot, underneath your pinky toe, right underneath the ball of your foot, and then right above the heel, the pad of your heel. Okay. No pain? What about on this side? Okay. And then there's a point right above the pad of your heel, right in the center of your foot. That's your quadratus plantae. You feel any pressure there? Any tension? Nothing? Okay. And then right underneath your second toe. Alright, and then 3 points going down from your big toe. Just pressing. Let me know if you feel any pain at all. Okay, let's try the other side. Alright, are you surprised to find no pain in your feet? Okay, now there's a point on the top of your foot, right underneath your big toe, underneath sort of the ball of your foot. Okay, you feel a little bit of tension there? Alright, that doesn't surprise me. That again can affect your big toe. That seems to be where you're having the trouble. So I'm just gonna press in there a little bit. Just take some deep breaths. Now these are the deeper muscles of your feet. So again, this wouldn't surprise me to have this point here hurt. And again, it's not a real common reflexology point. So it may not have been one that was hit during your reflexology session. That was a really good place to start though. Reflexology is never going to hurt and it may have fixed the problem, except it seems that this was really a deep-rooted trigger point issue for you. Okay, let me hit that point on the other side. Is it tender on this side as well? Yeah, okay. So just deep breaths in. Just using my thumb. I do find it easier to use my thumb on the feet. But again, I'm not using that much pressure. So I'm not going to strain my thumb or hurt your foot. Okay. And now there's one more point on the top of your foot. It's underneath your second toe, about halfway down the foot. Do you feel any kind of pain there? No? None? Okay. Well, why don't you get up for me and walk around? How do your feet feel? Does that feel better? Great. Oh, I'm so glad. Well, I think trigger points are your issue. Now, again, unfortunately, I hate to say that trigger points are not something that one treatment tends to fix, but the nice thing is that it is something that self-care helps with an awful lot. So if you can be consistent with doing the stretches that I showed you and with finding the trigger points associated with those stretches, you're really going to be doing much better. What I'd like to do is set up another session at least for a month from now. Now, if you find you're not being consistent with the self-care, and again, we're all very busy. It's very hard to change our habits and set aside time to do self-care. And some people find they really just can't work it into their lives. And again, it's hard to build those habits. So sometimes it takes a while to get there. If you find that's the case, I would recommend that you come in a week and we'll do a little booster. Because I don't want you to just backslide and have all of the pain that you had before. Okay, and I am going to print out the stretches that I showed you, and I also have a few pages of trigger points. It's nice pictures of where the trigger points are located, and I've made note of where your trigger points are, so I'm going to print out those pages for you and circle the trigger points where you tended to have problems. But trigger points can migrate, new trigger points can appear as you start having less pain. You may change the way you're walking. Again, some of these trigger points, it may be a chicken and the egg thing. Some of these trigger points may be because of the way you've changed the way you walk because of the pain. Now, some of the trigger points are probably what caused the pain in the first place. But again, it's a chicken and the egg thing. It's very hard to tell if you may have had a bunion or something that changed the way that you were walking and then it created the trigger points, or if you had trigger points that then caused the pain. It's very hard to tell at this point, but the trigger point work seems to be helping, so that's a really good sign. So what I may do is in our next session almost do the same thing, even though we've located a lot of your trigger points and I know where I think to spend more time, it's often helpful to go through all the different trigger points because, again, you may have new ones pop up as a result of the change in your posture and the way you walk. All right. Well, I'm so glad this has helped you today. That really makes me so happy. Trigger point work is wonderful, but you never really know till you're into it if it's going to help the person on the table. So, as much as I'm sorry you have trigger points, it's wonderful to be able to locate where your problem is and be able to help with it. So, I will walk you up front and we can make another appointment for a month if you would like. If you know you're not going to be consistent with the self-care, or if you would just like to have a booster in a week, we can schedule that appointment as well. Okay. Well, it was so nice spending time with you today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay. Take care.